our chat, if you will. Wake up, smell the coffee, volunteer. Once again, for those that are in the Philadelphia market, we're enjoying our first beautiful day in a long stretch of rainy days. We want to respect your time. We are going to get started. As a heads up, just so you know, we are going to record this session. So recording will be available afterwards, so you don't need to take scrupulous notes. So Lynn, if you want to kick off that recording, that'd be wonderful. Appreciate that. So, welcome everybody. My name is Ned Bloom. I'm with the American Red Cross. I'm going to be one of your hosts today. We'll introduce some other folks subsequently. I started the Red Cross myself as a volunteer about 13 years ago on what we call a disaster action team. And we're going to talk about that volunteer position in a few moments, how rewarding and how much exciting it can be when necessary. In addition to my role with the Red Cross, I am now in our volunteer services department, which means essentially I work for our volunteers. I do everything I can to make sure our volunteers have a rewarding and wonderful experience and a terrific journey as they help with the American Red Cross. In my free time, I am a local Philadelphian. I'm a big sports fan. So for those who are also Philadelphia sports fans, we are living very well right now. The Phillies are in the playoffs and the Eagles are doing very, very well. So it's a good time had by all. When I have an opportunity, I am outdoors. I do enjoy being camping and hiking and swimming in the great outdoors. That's a little bit about me, and you'll learn a little bit about myself and some of our other guests as we go along today. So with that, I would like to introduce my colleague, Lynn Cohen. Lynn, would you like to come on and introduce yourself as well?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us bright and early as we share with you information about all the wonderful opportunities we have to offer with the Red Cross. I, like Ned, am a senior volunteer recruitment specialist. I serve the Delaware Valley chapter, so I service Montgomery, Chester, and Delaware counties. I've been with the Red Cross almost 4 years, but I've been doing volunteer leadership management, for about, well, most of my life. So if I say 20 plus years, that should give you some idea. I absolutely love working with volunteers. I'm so thrilled that you're here joining us today. And if you have any questions for us, we're happy to answer them at the end. And with that, I will turn it back over to Ned.
Thank you, Lynn. Much appreciated. So in addition to myself and Lynn, you'll see 4 names listed there on our cover page. Liz Valdez, I'm sorry, Marty, Raquel, and Don, and Dave. And these are amazing volunteers, and you're going to hear their stories later, and you're going to hear what they find, what they love about volunteering with the Red Cross, hear their recommendation that you consider it as well. So we do ask you to be considerate of them and be kind of excited as they are excited to join us as well. A couple of housekeeping rules before we get started. If we're going to have questions and answers at the end, so please keep yourself muted and off camera until then. It kind of keeps the bandwidth working very well. So we look forward to hearing from our volunteers in a few moments, and we'll let them tell their stories, and we do appreciate their time as well. Our agenda today, we're going to kick off with the Red Cross, our mission, the things that drive us. Those are some kind of the things that make us go every day. And we're very excited by those, very proud of that mission. We're going to talk about our lines of service, the things that we do. And then we're going to dive into some volunteer opportunities, some of our biggest and most urgent needs right now. And as you hear about these volunteer opportunities, notice a theme that all of them are based on your time, based on your availability and your interests. We believe in flexibility and working around your schedule and making sure that you are actually performing a role that you enjoy, that you find rewarding. And then, of course, we'll wrap up with some questions and discussion towards the end. So let's make sure we get to that as quickly as we can. So with that, I want to start us off by starting about the mission of the Red Cross. And I'm actually very, very proud of this mission. It's actually on the back of my business card. And it very simply says, the American Red Cross prevents and alleviates human suffering in the face of emergencies by mobilizing the power of volunteers and the generosity of donors. And that's our mission. And there's 3 very important parts of this mission. Prevents and alleviates human suffering. That's what drives us. That's what makes us go. Every action we take comes back to, does our presence alleviate human suffering? We talk about the power of volunteers. And this is amazing to me. And I say this every day, and I'm always astounded when I say it. 90% of our workforce is volunteers. Everything we do, every action we take is led and driven by volunteers. Consider that a multi-million-dollar organization, and it's all done by volunteers, many of whom you're actually going to meet on this call today. And the generosity of donors. There's actually two parts of that meeting. Generosity of donors refers to our blood donors. It also talks to our financial donors. We are the country's largest humanitarian organization that gets zero money from the government. We've actually turned that into a positive. Because we get zero money from the government, we can help anybody at any time. We don't care about their race, their religion, their background, where they're coming from, where they're going, their citizenship level. None of that matters. Does our presence alleviate human suffering, to take it back full circle? So these are the things that drive us, and we're very, very proud of that. So, of course, we're not going to ask you today for money. We're not here. We'll never, ever ask our volunteers for money. We're actually going to talk about asking for your time. And that's what we'll get to in a few moments. So what is it the Red Cross does? I mean, many people have heard the words Red Cross. You may be familiar with some of the things that we do. We actually are 5 lines of service. Our 2 biggest are probably the ones you're most familiar with. Our biomedical services, where we actually are responsible for half of the country's blood supply. We collect, distribute about half the country's blood supply. And I certainly encourage anybody on this call, if you ever have an opportunity to donate blood, please do so. I give myself every 6 weeks. It's the most relaxing part of my day. And you really feel good about yourself because every donation helps to save 3 lives. And we're going to talk a little bit about that process, where volunteers get involved in that process in a few moments. Our disaster cycle services department. And cycle is very, very important here because we help people before, during, and after a disaster. So we're a part of all aspects of it. And these are all volunteers who are helping in this well, helping in preparation, helping in education, helping in response, and helping in recovery. So we're going to talk a little bit more about these 2 lines of service in depth in a few moments. Our other lines of service I'll mention very briefly are service to the armed forces. It's actually how our history began. If you're ever interested in the history of the Red Cross, please reach out to me and I'll be thrilled to tell you about the history of the Red Cross and where we began. Our training services department. We help organizations and individuals learn life-saving skills, including life-saving, CPR, first aid. These are all skills that we all like to have, and I tell our volunteers who get this training for free that CPR training is a skill we should all have and hope we never use. And our international services. We help with a lot of events around the world, vaccinations, reunifying families that have been disconnected, mapping areas of the world that need to be reached. So these are our lines of service. And again, these are all volunteers doing what they like to do on their schedule and based on their interests. But I'm going to let's dive into some of our most specific, our most urgent needs that we have right here in the Pennsylvania area. And with that, I'm going to reintroduce my colleague, Lynn Cohen. And Lynn, I'm going to give it to you, and please go from here. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody, again. Thanks again for joining us. So this morning we are going to talk about specific positions relative to disaster. And the first one we're going to talk about is our duty officer. So typically every 8 minutes, the Red Cross responds to an emergency, and our vital work is possible because of the fabulous volunteers like yourselves. And you're going to meet one shortly. Her name is Liz, and she is a duty officer. She helps answer the call when we get calls from the fire departments or police departments or emergency services when they say they need the Red Cross's help. She makes a determination on whether it's a good place for us to respond, and then she dispatches support and stays in touch with the volunteers who are responding and in the field, making sure they have everything they need. And she does that from the comfort of her home. Liz has been with the Red Cross, I believe, for about 6 years, and she serves many roles within the Disaster Cycle Services Department. But today she's here to talk about the duty officer role. So with that, Liz, I'm turning it over to you.
I thank you, Lynn. Yes, my name is Liz, as Lynn said, and I am a responder. That's really what drew me to the Red Cross. So, I like to go out and help people. And I joined after I retired from the corporate world. I wanted to continue to contribute to society, so to speak. So, and also meet people and do something different than what I used to do when I was working. So today I'm talking to you about the duty officer position. And like Lynn said, when there is a disaster, a fire, a flood, or an explosion, and somebody is no longer able to live in their house, that's a good example. You know, they call the Red Cross. 1-800 Red Cross is the number. It goes to a national dispatch. And if the disaster is in our area, then the call comes to the duty officer in this area. And when I'm on the shift, I'm on call, then I get the call. And I like it because, first of all, yes, I get to work from home, and I still get to help people. So I talk to the fire chief, I talk to whoever is the emergency response people on site to get a little bit more information about the disaster. And then I have a list of responders who are scheduled. Everybody signs up for a shift. And so I call them and, you know, give them all of the information about the location, the disaster, and I dispatch them to go. And, you know, we meet on scene, and you'll hear more about disaster responses. So as a duty officer, I'm also making sure that everybody's safe when they go out there. So I want to know when they're there. We call it on scene. And then, of course, when they are completed, off scene. And I monitor the situation always, you know, from a phone or from my computer, and see, you know, if everybody's okay. Maybe they might need something else from me. Might need to call other people. I might need to call some of our specialty teams. So that is some of the things that I do. I like we said, this one is a position that is working from home. So you're on the phone and you're in front of your computer. From the pictures, you can see that. But still, you can do a lot. You know, we have 4-hour shifts that we sign up for. So when I have 4 hours that I know I'm going to be home, I usually take the evening shifts, and I'm doing other things. And if there happens to be a call, then I do take the call and work that dispatch. But otherwise, you know, I'm still flexible and I can do other things. The shifts are, I sign up when I want to. That's one thing that I do like about the Red Cross. I never feel pressure to do anything. I do what I want as a volunteer. So whatever shift is better for me, that's what I take. And whatever position, whatever things I want to do, you know, sometimes I'm a responder, sometimes I'm a duty officer. Those are the kinds of things that I like to do. So, and I'm still helping people, even though I'm working from home. It's that's my main goal for having joined the Red Cross. So I think that's all I have to say about the duty officer position for now. Thank you, Lynn. I'll send it back to you.
Fabulous. Fabulous, Liz. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yes, what you do is so important. You are the first line of defense, or if you will, in getting our volunteers out there and getting help to those who desperately need it. So with that, and we do provide training. I do want to say that. So every opportunity with the Red Cross comes with very well a lot of training, just to make sure that, you know, we're delivering and the volunteers are trained in delivering the same service, no matter who they are, who they're talking to, or where they are across the country. So you are very well trained. So thanks again, Liz. So our next slide, please. And our next person who will be speaking with us is Rahel. Rahel has been volunteering since 2019 with the American Red Cross. She does the disaster action team as well as a blood donor ambassador, but today she's going to talk about being a disaster action team member. And I know, most of the time the big hurricanes, the wildfires get the most news coverage, but the smaller disasters, the local home fires are no less devastating to families who are in need. And as a disaster action team volunteer, you help comfort and support people in the community for meeting their immediate needs, such as helping them get food or shelter or clothing or supplies, and getting connected to some long-term recovery services. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rahel, and Rahel can share her experience. Thanks, Rahel.
Hi, thank you, Lynn. I'm Rachel Pachter, and I've been with the Red Cross since 2019. I live in Lower Merion, and I've been volunteering with the Disaster Action Team for the past year in Philadelphia and Delaware counties. You heard from Liz what happens on her end when a call comes in for help with a disaster. From my perspective, I begin the second stage when I decide to accept or reject a request for help. It's my decision based on my availability. If I accept, I wait for instructions on how to proceed. I'm never alone. We always go out as a team with a minimum of 2 people. Everything we do is coordinated with the duty officer. If I'm not sure what to do in a certain situation, I call or I text the duty officer. If I make a mistake, it's correctable. Every event is a learning experience. I've never gone out on a call without coming back learning something new. Always. I'm never left wondering what I need to do. We always work together as a team, which was very important to me, especially when I went out for the first few times, because I was very nervous about what I should do. What if I do something wrong? What if I mess up? I didn't have to worry about that because I wasn't alone. So when we go out, we gather the necessary information and try to help the client as much as possible, as much as we possibly can. But it's not just paperwork and giving financial assistance or blankets and comfort kits. We're meeting people on one of the worst days of their lives. Some of the people have lost everything and have nothing left but the clothing on their backs. Some have lost loved ones or a pet, which in itself is emotionally devastating. We're the first friendly faces they see. Sometimes they just need a big hug. And this is why I volunteer. I get to give back to society, and I can't begin to describe the feeling it gives me to know I've helped comfort someone in their moment of need. When I would come home from my first few events, my excitement was so contagious that I actually infected my husband. He's now a service associate, and we go out together on some occasions. I've always wanted to volunteer with a service organization, but I have crazy hours and I needed flexibility. The Red Cross has been a perfect match for me. I decide when and where I volunteer. I sign up for at least 1 shift a week, and sometimes I get called, and sometimes I don't. I work from home, so it's perfect for me. I also get texts for events in between shifts, and if it's convenient, I go. If it's not, I don't go. If you want face-to-face contact with clients, this is the perfect volunteer job. Back to you, Lynn.
Fabulous, Rahel. Thank you so much for sharing your experience. I love that you said you give people a big hug, because one of our 5 C's, 5 values is compassion. And this role is where you really are able to share your compassion and offer hope to people who've lost everything, and it's emotionally devastating. And sometimes all they need is that shoulder to cry on. So if that's something you're interested and willing and able to do, this is a perfect opportunity for you. And I also like that Rahel shared how flexible the position is. It's to your schedule. You put in your on-call hours, and you go when you can, and you are trained again very well, and you don't go out alone. So thank you, Rahel, so much. Our next guest is a relatively new volunteer who's been with us since April. His name is Marty. And Marty is retired from the nuclear power industry. And he shared with me that his wife is his best support system for volunteering. And you also heard Rahel talk about how she got her husband involved. So sometimes it's a fabulous husband-wife team or just being supported by your significant other. But Marty is serving as a Chester County Disaster Action Team member, and there's buzz that he'll probably be promoted soon to a coordinator. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Marty. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Lynn. Good morning, everyone. I'm Marty Westerman, and I'm a rookie amongst all these fine volunteers. I don't look like a rookie, but I am a rookie. As I joined in April, I started my training in May of this year. As Lynn said, I'm retired from the nuclear industry. I've been retired actually for 4 years. And in those 4 years, when I first retired, I promised myself, you know, I've had 40 good years working. It's time for me to give back a little bit. So I promised myself 4 years ago. And what took me 4 years? Well, there was a knee replacement in there. There was a grandson in there. And oh no, by the way, I think there was a pandemic in there. So after the pandemic, now that we're out of the pandemic, I kind of ran out of excuses. So my sister is a member of the Red Cross. She's also retired like me, and she's a blood ambassador. So she suggested to me, she said, hey, listen, there's a real need in some areas. Why don't you go online and take a look and see what the needs are? So I went online and looked and saw the disaster action team. So I signed up online for disaster action team. I got some phone calls, I did a couple interviews, and we decided that it was a good fit for me. So I'm able to drive to a disaster. I'm able to work on my computer. I have flexible hours. We sign ourselves up for 6-hour shifts. The Red Cross asks us to only give 24 hours in a month. So I'm able to do that. And then because we have a grandson who lives in Virginia, I still have to go away every once in a while. So we go down and see my grandson maybe for a week at a time. So I disappear from the Red Cross maybe for a week at a time. So the flexibility all worked for me. And as Lynn said, I am a service associate. Hopefully with Liz's help, I'm going to be a supervisor soon. And then I'll also be the DAC coordinator for Chester County. So since I live outside of Pottstown, live in North Coventry, so I'm near the Montgomery County, Chester County border. When we did the interviews, I said, okay, I'll sign up for Chester County and I'll also do Montgomery County. So that was in May of this year. I just started my training. And then one night late in May, I received a phone call, and I still wasn't able to put myself on the schedule yet. I received a phone call from, it might have been Liz or another duty officer, that there was, you probably remember this, it was a house neighborhood explosion in Pottstown. So it was the middle of the day when the explosion happened, and by the time we got the call, it was the evening. So I said I was available to respond, responded to an area in Pottstown. So the duty officer will give you what we call a rally point. So as Rahel talked about, we always go as a team. We never go as a single individual to a disaster. So we met at a school close by to where the explosion happened in Pottstown. And Debbie Tevlin, who's the lead of all that for Southeast Pennsylvania, met me there and started giving me a briefing and handed me the infamous vest, the Red Cross vest. I couldn't even put the vest on. I was so new at that time. She had to help me even put the vest on. So still doing training. Don't know what I'm getting myself into. She gives me a safety briefing, a briefing of what we're going to see, and asks me if I'm okay to proceed. And I said, okay, let's do this. Then she proceeds to hand me a case of water and some snacks. So I was the water and snack guy. So then we show up and Debbie talks to the fire chief. We realize this is a really bad situation, and there's a reception center being set up over at the Pottstown High School. So we get over to the Pottstown High School and we start meeting clients. So clients are the individuals that we go to take care of. We call them clients. The clients started showing up at the high school, and immediately there was probably 5 or 6 of us disaster action team members at the high school. And you can immediately see the disaster action team members start to take care of these individuals. So understand these individuals, it was a beautiful day, middle of the day, a guy next door cutting the grass, the kids out playing, and all of a sudden part of their neighborhood is gone. So they're in total shock. And just to see how our Red Cross disaster action team members just put their arms around these people, immediately taking care of them, giving them blankets, having them sit down and talk through things. It was just, it's the first time these people had ever seen anything like that. Most of us should never see anything what they saw. And it was the first time they were able to talk to anybody. So the firemen and all, they take care of the disaster. And then we're there to take care of the clients. And we'll be able to offer them right away some care and compassion. We're able to listen to their story. We're able to give them some hope. And then the next couple of days, we'll be able to put them up in a hotel or a shelter, and we'll be able to take care of their immediate needs to make sure that they can get on their way to recovery. So I think that's what's important for us. So if you're a person that really wants to see people taken care of, your neighbors taken care of, you want to give care and compassion to people who have seen things that we never want to see. If you want to be that person that can give a hug and to give them a positive attitude that things are going to get better, I think the disaster action team is good for a good fit for you. And the good thing about disaster action team is our hours are flexible. You can put yourself in your schedule as you see fit. And I really am glad that I joined the disaster action team. And I'm glad to work with people like Liz and Rahel, and that there's so many more people just like them. It's pretty inspiring. So that's my story. And back to you, Lynn.
Thank you so much, Marty. And I really appreciate how you kind of detailed how that response went in Pottstown, because it's hard to understand if you weren't there. I mean, you see it on TV, but you really can't understand the devastation that and the shock that people are in when these things happen. So thank you for all you're doing. And we're so lucky to have you join this team. So
Thanks.
Thank you. With that, I am going to move on to the next slide. We have another role within the Red Cross. It's called a transportation specialist. So a lot of people for our biomedical team think about blood as just us collecting the blood, but the blood has to be processed, and then the blood has to get delivered. So what we ask blood transportation specialists to do is to basically take the driver's seat and to deliver this life-saving blood. You, as a volunteer transportation specialist, you might be picking blood up from blood drives in the community and taking them to the processing center in Philadelphia, or picking blood up from the processing center and taking it out to the hospitals in need. So with that, we have a fabulous volunteer who's been doing this for about 9 years. His name is Dave. And Dave, with that, I am going to turn it over to you because you know this position the best. So thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Lynn. I'm Dave Brown, and this is my 9-month anniversary of transporting blood for the Red Cross. Basically, when I started, the only real option was to go to blood drives, pick up the blood and take it to the distribution center in Center City, Philly. After 3 years, we got to talking about it. And since I was driving home in an empty car, why not deliver blood to hospitals on the way home? So my words, not the Red Cross's, I had kind of a hybrid where I would both pick up blood and deliver it to hospitals. And then we all know about the pandemic. The week the pandemic started, I'm retired. I don't do well with nothing to do. So I volunteer for a number of organizations. And the week that the pandemic started, a number of things happened. The other 5 organizations I volunteer for stopped, and I had no need. There was nothing to do. And the pickups, all of a sudden, because the churches and schools and everything were closed, there were really minimal blood pickups, but there was still a need to get it to the hospitals. So starting the first week of the pandemic, I went 7 days a week delivering blood to hospitals. I love the flexibility. Basically, I pick when and where I go. Working for the Red Cross, it's been mentioned by the other volunteers. You decide. If somebody asks you to go to Yonkers, you don't feel comfortable to go to Yonkers, you say, I'm not comfortable going to Yonkers. Other things that are really nice is that as far as flexibility, you can drive a Red Cross truck, you can drive your own vehicle, or you can mix and match. I have friends that do part of one and part of the other. Personally, I like driving my own vehicle, and that's what I choose. But on any given day, I could say, give me some keys and I'll take a Red Cross truck. As far as having people assist you, if you do sign up to transport blood, I'll probably be the one that does, the first time you go out, you won't be going out alone. You probably have me in the right seat, riding shotgun. Other things I want to mention is, like Marty said, he travels a lot. I was biking in Holland for a month last month, and I just did not, I just didn't sign into the Red Cross that month. When I come back, I resume. I'm born and raised a Buckeye. I spend about a third of my time in Ohio. There is ultimate flexibility. So that's most of the highlights I wanted to say. I will put my phone number in the text, in the chat. And if anybody wants to talk to me online, send me a text or give me a call anytime if you have any questions. I know when I first started, a friend of mine, she was transporting blood, and it was huge being able to talk to her. What does it involve? How do you do it? How long does it last? How do you sign up? That was great. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to contact me. I'll put my number in the chat, and I'll turn it back to Lynn.
Thanks so much, Marty. And I think you had shared previously, when you show up at the hospital, do you want to kind of share that one time they were waiting for the blood?
Actually, it doesn't happen every time, but talk about a good feeling. I have on multiple occasions walked into a blood bank in a hospital, and when I've walked in, the blood bank's broken out in cheers because they've been, it almost sounds like a medical TV show. You walk in with the blood, come rushing in the door, and they broke out in applause because they were so desperate for that blood. One other thing I will mention that I forgot is during the pandemic, people have concerns. The pandemic is still there. Believe me, the pandemic is still there. COVID is still there. And if you do the pickup, that's really contactless blood transportation. You're not allowed to touch the blood. You pull up to the site, the person processing the blood at the site brings it out and puts it in your car, and you pull up to the lab in Philly and ring the doorbell, and they come out and take it. So you're not even touching anything. You're not exposed to anyone. The flip side of that is if you go into the hospitals, then you're really in, and of course you're masked up and gloved up and everything else. But that's full contact. But if you do have concerns because of family members, because of health issues with COVID, you can do contactless blood transportation.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And it's just so important, to get that blood to the hospitals. And I have to say, I was at a blood drive about a month ago in media, and I like to talk to people about why they're donating blood. And I spoke with a young couple, and the mother gets blood transfusions, and about a week before they were donating blood, their mother had called them and said that she was waiting at the hospital because they weren't sure if they were going to have blood to transfuse her. And so that kind of sent the whole family into a panic, and she had to wait a couple hours until blood arrived for her transfusion. So it is so important for donating and for collecting, and for us to have drivers getting that blood to the needed locations where it needs to go. So thank you so much, Dave, for all you do. And thank you to all the volunteers, to Rahel and Marty and Dave and Liz for sharing their experiences with us this morning. I think it helps us give a good insight, and we will allow for questions at the end. Right now, I just kind of want to talk about the roadmap to volunteering. So as you heard a few of them mention, you can fill out the application to volunteer online, and our website is right there. It's www.redcross.org/volunteer. And once you go there, you are going to complete your application. You can start it and stop it. It's probably best to try and complete it. If you need assistance completing it, you could reach out to myself or Ned, and we're happy to support you. Once you complete that application, you're going to be referred to your department of choice, and they're going to interview you, or just really have a conversation like Marty shared. They're going to have a conversation with you about, is this a good fit for you? Is the time good for you? Are the qualifications, are the responsibilities a good fit for you? And then you will be assigned a supervisor who will introduce you to your team and to your fellow volunteers. And that supervisor will then do what we call onboarding and training. So they will share with you the different trainings that you need to take. They will help get you those trainings scheduled, and different opportunities utilize different tools for scheduling. And one of the things we use is called a shift tool. So that's where you get to look at the shift and you sign up for what works for your schedule. So there's that flexibility. And then we always like to follow up. We like our volunteers to stay involved and engaged. We do volunteer recognition. We have an event coming up in December. And we always ask volunteers to log their hours. Some things that you do, it is automatically logged for you, but hours are very important because our donors like to know where our volunteers are spending their time. So with that, I believe I'm going to turn it back over to Ned, but I do want to say that I see that Dave put his information in the chat. And if you aren't familiar with the Teams module, up above, there should be a line of some funny looking icons, and there's one that looks like a chat bubble, or like the cartoon bubble. And if you click on that, you should be able to see the chat from there. So if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat. Ned's going to talk about one more opportunity, and then we will take questions. So Ned.
Awesome. Thank you, Lynn, and Dave, Rahel, Liz, and Marty. Thank you so much for your availability and for your stories. Again, the Red Cross cannot do it without you. But there's one more position I do want to talk about today. Earlier I mentioned that we call it disaster cycle services. We talk about the fact that we help people before, during, and after a disaster. You heard from Rahel and from Liz and from Marty what they do in terms of response, how they work as a team from home and in the field, and in response. That's during a disaster. We like to meet people before a disaster. And one of the things we have is we have a campaign called the Home Fire Campaign, where we are installing free smoke alarms in houses that need them. We have a hotline number and people call up, and we schedule appointments with these folks. And we're looking for volunteers who help fulfill these appointments. And you'll work again as a team, always on your schedule, always on your availability. And you'll meet your team at the Red Cross building. You'll get into a Red Cross car, and you'll roll out to that individual's home. And you kind of split your responsibilities there. Some people are actually installing the smoke alarms, while other people are sharing some educational information with those families. Everything is provided. All the training is provided. All the tools are provided. I'll be honest with you guys. I'm a complete klutz when it comes to mechanical tools, but even I can install these smoke alarms. It is so easy. You're in and out of the house in about 20 minutes, and you've helped the family protect themselves, help to protect their families, help to protect their property, and help to protect their neighborhood. So again, this is an opportunity to get involved on your schedule and help on our Home Fire Campaign. So it's another opportunity to kind of help the Red Cross, to help your neighbors, and it's a really, really remarkably rewarding experience. So I urge you to consider this. And many of our volunteers do multiple roles. And again, you can change your path along the way. It's all up to you. So that is our other opportunity today. So at this time, I'd like to open it up to discussion. I want to, of course, say thank you for joining us. I think you heard throughout the presentation that flexibility, the rewarding experience, you meet new people. That's why I joined the Red Cross. You learn new skills, and you'll find it to be a really, really terrific thing to get involved in. So at that time, I'd like to open it up to questions. Does anybody have any questions? You can put them in the chat box. You can come off camera and ask us, and we'll be happy to answer any questions. Or if you have any comments, we'd love to hear your comments as well. Hope we explained everything.
Good morning to you.
Yes.
I must say I'm impressed. I'm happy, with the way that you did the presentation this morning. I have to run out a little before 9, so that's why I'm going first. And I am from the Caribbean. I've just been in Philadelphia for 2 months, and my training is in disaster management. So I look forward to learning from you all and to sharing some of my knowledge.
Awesome.
So the presenters really motivated you to to volunteer, and with my work back home, I work with volunteers, not in Red Cross, but with volunteers at the community level, and so I'm sure I'll be a great fit and a great asset to your organization.
Awesome.
So
Paula, thank you very much. And I know we've been emailing back and forth as well, and we look forward to.
So say your name again. Say your name again.
Is it Paula?
No, your name. Your name.
My name is Ned.
Oh, okay. Yes, I do remember. I do recall that name. Yes.
Yes, and I know we've been emailing back and forth, and I do look forward to meeting you in person as well. And we look forward to learning from you. I mean, we're always learning from our volunteers. Creativity, collaboration is a huge part of what we do. So we look forward to working with you and learning from you. And you've got my email, you've got my phone number. Let's you and I connect, and we'll get you on board and find a position that fits your skills and your interests very soon. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Right.
So if you don't hear me, I'm gone, okay?
Okay. All right. Does anybody else have any questions or thoughts? I hope we've inspired you a little bit this morning. The Red Cross has been around for a long time, and we're going to be around for a long time. And we are very proud to be involved in Philadelphia. We're very proud to be involved throughout Southeastern Pennsylvania. And we look forward to working with everybody. So I'll give it a moment or two. Does anybody have any questions? Want to come off and say anything? Everybody's coffee kicking in this morning?
Someone's typing in the chat. Just a moment.
Awesome.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Lisa. We appreciate it. And again, any presentation, any compliments go to the volunteers. Dave, Raquel, Liz, and Marty. They really inspire us every day because they're giving their time and they're helping. And that's just amazing. So, thank you guys. Thank you all very, very much. So we are going to send out this presentation afterwards. We'll send out the presentation deck. There's also going to be a recording available. You'll have my contact information. You'll have Lynn's contact information. The volunteers are also happy to speak with you, and we'll make sure that we find something that fits for your schedule, fits your availability, and you'll be joining an amazing team. So at that, I just want to say thank you once again. I'd like to close with one of my favorite quotes from Nelson Mandela, of course. It says, "There can be no greater gift than giving of one's time and energy to help others without expecting anything in return." So with that, we're going to give you a little bit of time back. I know we talked about maybe giving this up to an hour, but we wrapped it up fairly quickly. So if there's no more questions, we wish you all a wonderful day. We'll be back in touch. We'll send out this deck again, and we look forward to connecting with you very soon. So thank you all.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a fabulous day.
Thank you, Raquel. Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
See you guys.
everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.